I guess, gosh, thanks for coming. I'm happy to share. Honestly, I'd love to keep this more conversational and get questions. If you guys don't know much about like my story within, we'll call it like the gym side, I'll fill you in really briefly as best as I can with that. And then I'd love to just field some questions so I can answer it because there's just a lot of information. So Park City, Utah, for those of you guys that don't know, is a resort town. So it can be very expensive. And we were at a point, we'd always kind of dreamed of building our own gym, just because it sounded cool, I'm just going to be honest, for no financial reason or anything like that. So it took us probably about 9 or 10 years to go from thinking about it to having money down on land, like in escrow, and then pulling out of that, looking at other buildings, finding other options till we got to the point where we were able to purchase land, build a building, and get into it. So the journey was quite long, and I'm also going to be completely transparent with you guys. The only way that I was able to do this, because I think this is important, I did everything backwards, okay? Um, but the only way that I was able to afford this was not because my affiliate was thriving. Um, and that I can take ownership of that as the business owner, but I also think that the nature of what we're in is difficult. So what I did from the time that I started becoming a sponsored athlete, which is very different than what these guys do today, um, I literally put that money into a savings account. Would have been much smarter to put in some kind of investment account, which I would strongly suggest. But I literally put that in a savings account, and over the course of roughly 8 years, 9 years, my wife and I saved that in the event that we could build. We got to a position where, as the market increased, our rent was getting higher and higher, and we were left with three decisions. One of those wasn't really an option. It was to try to stay open and continue to pay rent, which we would have had to downsize quite a bit in order to afford. It could be a choice, right, to change our business model. So that was option one, which we were not willing to do because we just couldn't afford the rent anymore. Option two was literally we were going to close, like shut everything down. At the time, I was doing more online training, and that was successful at the time. And now that's gotten wildly competitive. And I'm also not interested in it. It's not where my heart is. And the third was to build. So we chose to take the risk to build, which we did, and it was quite the journey. But what I would love to hear from you guys are like just a couple of like the big topic questions. I'll go as far down the rabbit hole as you want, and we're all just going to share the process. But fire up a hand with just like any big questions you have on like why should you build versus lease? What were the biggest hurdles? Cash on hand. Like how expensive is this really? I'm happy to field anything, and we can dive down the rabbit hole.
Oh no, this next dimension. No, this next
How big is our space? So our space is corner to corner. It's 10,000 square feet. And then we have a mezzanine up top that is probably an additional, I would say, maybe 1,100 square feet. I was told, I knew none of this, if you are trying to build, the most effective, cost-effective way to do it is to build out, not up. So when we got our land, we tried to build the biggest footprint that we can because adding on to a structure will be always more expensive than doing it from the start. The linear square foot, at least in the US, the linear square foot, if we added another 3,000 square feet, it would have been much less expensive at the start of the build, but we had to do it after. Additionally, and this is just more things to consider, because because the building, quite frankly, is our retirement. I don't have a Roth IRA or 401k, whatever this is. I don't have any of that. Like, it's literally in the building, all of it. So we built it with the option that you could put a second floor on it. So we built it as high as we could without a second floor to save cost and also just usability. And our footprint as big as we could. Reason being is in the future, if we want to sell or lease the building, that's a big selling point. You could double the square footage if an office were to come in there or something, and now you can market it as potentially 20,000 square feet. How far from the town is it? So we made, it's interesting, Park City's it's like a box canyon, right? And it's very small. Generally, it's only about like 5 miles from what we call the junction to downtown, and then another maybe 3 outside of town. We literally found the last that I know of, the last commercial lot that was zoned for our building. So we didn't have a choice to where our building was, but I will say we are generally and very fortunately blessed to be centrally located. We're close to Jeremy Ranch, which is a big neighborhood, and we're close to Main Street, like downtown. We're just on the outskirts of that. So we're about 12 minutes from Jeremy Ranch and about 10 minutes from town. Yeah, great questions, and I'm happy to share all of it. So I won't be offended. I'm happy to share because it's helpful. How much was the land? How much was the building? Is it financially viable to do as an affiliate? So the land, this was difficult. It was zoned previously for other buildings. We were not allowed to build there. I inquired about 3 or 4 years beforehand about building there, and the county told me no, because it was not zoned for us. It was called, there's community commercial, and then I believe it's like manufacturing commercial. I tried everything. I was like, hey, we print t-shirts. Like I do not do that, but I was gonna get like a t-shirt printing machine and put it in the gym and say that I did that. They were like, no, no, no. 3 years later, I found out that they were going to a town hall, and they were having a meeting about the zoning in the area that I was looking at. So I've never been to one of these. So I go, and there's a guy there that wants to build a climbing gym, and he has a lawyer on either side of him. And they talk to the city planners and say, look, we just want to change the verbiage so that in this zone, we can have a fitness facility. And all these people stand like, 5 of them, they're like, well, that doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. Why don't we do that? And so they were like, is there anybody that objects? And I was like, I'm not objecting, but I asked you guys if you would do this 3 years ago, and you said no. They didn't like that very much. But long story short, that land originally was being sold for around $220,000, and over those 3 years, I purchased it for $420,000. So it doubled in price from the time that I bought it. Now, I also bought about a year before COVID, which is another blessing because we never ever afford. So the land was about $420,000. We did a metal building. For us, metal buildings, they're going to be more durable in the climate that we have, probably similar to you guys, like mountainous weather. They're typically less expensive to build. And so the build, I believe, our build was about 1.8. So all in, we're about 2.2 to 2.3 million, right, to build the building. Let's talk, how do you finance? So in the U.S., I don't know how it works here, but in the U.S., they have what are called SBA loans. So it's a small business association loan. And typically in a regular commercial loan, you often have to put 20% down. I did not have that. So I didn't have that cash on hand. Now, again, here's where we've been super fortunately blessed. All the money that I saved from my sponsors over the course of those 9 years, we were able to file for an SBA loan, and the SBA is funded through the government and the bank. So I went through, big bank, Chase Bank, whatever, right? And they funded a portion of the loan, and then SBA funds a portion of the loan. And the SBA, they put more money up front, so we had to put down 10%, which was a huge help. And I'm not kidding you, we did all of this is a total God thing. We did all of the bids and everything. You have to get all your line item bids in, submitted to the SBA and Chase, your regular bank, to show them exactly what the projected cost of the building is. From start to finish, everything included, all the permits, the building, if you guys are adding equipment in there and putting that under the loan, anything that's included. I'm not kidding you, when it came time for us to sign a check and write a check for that, in our sponsor account, we had, when we wrote that check, we had $7 left in that account. So that is what allowed me to do that. So for me, I could have taken out a loan to finance for that, right? So our affiliate at the time, we had saved money over time. Now, again, fully transparent. As an athlete, at the time I was working for seminar staff. That's how I paid for my family. I did not take a dime from the gym until probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Labor of love, anybody, right? Don't run it like that. Don't do that. So that's why I like to be really transparent with this stuff. We're super fortunate, but I had to grind. I had to work really hard to make that happen. Did I miss anything else? Does that help answer that question? Great. So monthly ongoing payments compared to income coming in from the affiliate. Again, fully transparent. For us, we were really fortunate because we financed before COVID hit, so our interest rates were actually quite low. Relative. Our interest rate on the building, I believe, is fixed at about 4.2%, which is very helpful. So our mortgage is roughly, buckle up, for some of you guys this might sound crazy expensive, because it is. Our mortgage is about $12,300 a month. If I was paying rent for a space that was probably 4,000 square feet less, my current rent would be around $21,000 a month. So I would not be able to be in business, right? So again, fully transparent. Does the gym support that? Yes. The membership that we have coming in, the way that we've structured our membership, what we charge for our membership, and the demographic that we have, what I pay my trainers for classes versus one-on-ones, the structure that I create for that. I cap my trainers at $30 per class. They won't get paid more than that because I'm providing the programming, the facility. You get up there, you just need to facilitate, you need to run it, right? Our trainer cuts, we really encourage a one-on-one environment and more customized classes. Or my trainer, if you were to work for me, I would give you the freedom to open up a specialty class. And it can be anything. It can be strength class, a women's barbell class, a mobility class, a high rocks class. As long as I think that it's going to be good for the business, good for the trainer, and good for the client, it has to meet those three things. If one of those is suffering, it's not a good idea. But it does those three things, you could set up that, specialty class and run it almost like a business within a gym, and you'll get 60% of that. And the gym takes 40% of that. So if someone gets 20 people to sign up for a specialty class and they're charging them an additional $150, $200 a month, whatever, what happens is they take 60% of that cut, but they're only working 2 hours additional a week or 3 hours, however we structure that class. And then same thing, we're really encouraging one-on-one environments. Again, fully transparent. We're no longer affiliated. We rebranded in 2020 and went to Park City Fit. And then about a year and a half ago, we chose to not be affiliated because we thought it was not a great representation of the way that we program. What I was running into is people were coming to the gym that had an idea of who I was. It sounds weird to say. And they had an expectation. Well, he's been to the games, he's done this, he's done that, so it should be really competitive program, really tough. It's not. We program 2 strength-specific days a week. I program 1 long duration day a week. I'm closed 1 day a week. And that means we have 3 other days a week where we do what? CrossFit type workouts, right? And so I allocate intensity throughout the week. And if people are coming to me looking for a CrossFit affiliate, they are let down because they don't have the intensity or the volume that they're maybe used to. That's my choice to try to run that to suit the demographic in Park City. I am not saying that that's the best way to run a gym. Okay, I'm saying that that's for us has been something I believe if we can take a step in that in Park City to serve our community better, and I can make that platform, that program better, that's what I need to do to try to get more people into it, because you need to run it like a business. Age group, that's a great one. So we've been in, this spring, we will have been in business for 19 years. We have members with us that have been with us for 19 years. I would say most of the members we have, and this is actually a difficult thing for me. Most of the members we have been with us for probably 12 to 15 years. So my age demographic has changed. If someone started with me when they were 40, they're now 60. If someone started when they're 20, they're now 40. These are very different seasons in life that we have had to navigate as a business, and how do we serve them instead of providing a service that will eventually chew them up and spit them out, right? So our demographic, I would say on average, is probably like 33 to 55 years old, and no one cares about competing. I have 3 people that I can think of that do the open, and everyone else uses the training as a means to an end. For us, because we live in a resort town, that means they want to be better at skiing, biking, trail running. There's obviously, like you guys can probably experience now, you have a lot of people that the big thing, it shouldn't be a buzzword, but people are finally getting their heads around the importance of strength. So now we have people inquiring, hey, I'm 45 years old, I need to work on my strength, I can feel it going away. I'm like, we're your crew, we're happy to help. So demographic might be, that's wildly different than a college town with 20-year-olds. What percentage are 50 years old? I would say probably 40% of the people we have are 50 years old. Yeah, 45 years old or older up. Yeah. Good question. So do I own the land personally and lease it to the gym? A business, a separate LLC, owns the land and the building, and that's separate from Park City Fit, because that protects Park City Fit. If someone were to come try, protects the building, sorry. If someone were to try to sue Park City Fit, that's a separate entity. So it's called Saranac. Saranac owns the building and the land. Park City Fit leases the building from them, and then my wife and I own that other shelter.
So it was actually over here when
Cost of building repairs versus like with owning versus So upsides and downsides, right? When you are renting a space, this is what we ran into. Generally, what you will find is anytime you sign a lease, typically what's included in that are what's called tenant improvements, right? And those tenant improvements means that the landlord will invest X amount of money into that space for you. And then for us, what we ran into with that is what's included in tenant improvements. And generally, that's anything on the exterior of the building. So whatever, if the roof flew off, they'd have to fix it. But it gets tricky because if the air conditioner goes out, they're like, well, no, even though that's on the roof, that's my responsibility to fix. So when I was renting, I had to replace water heaters in the bathroom. I had to invest in try to soundproof walls because there were people next door that didn't like us. Right? When we moved to the gym, I will say the overall cost for maintenance has been less in some ways because it's a new building, right? So we were able to take care of that, which is really helpful. In a typical lease in the U.S., I'm not sure again how it is here, you typically sign what's called a triple net lease. And that triple net lease means that I am paying for the space, but I'm also paying the landlords essentially like their taxes, and I'm paying for what are called common area maintenance fees, CAMs. And so for us, where we live, that means that we would pay for garbage, snow removal, because we get a lot of snow, any kind of landscaping. That now is on my shoulders. So in that, the mortgage does not cover CAMs. So I now, pros and cons, have the option to go and shop around and say, your snow removal fee is way too high. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over here. The con with that is I'm responsible for that. And, like our snow removal fee has doubled in the past 2 years. Our water has doubled in the past 2 years. So all these things, you would have to pay for them anyway, because the landlord would push it onto you anyway, because that's what a triple net lease is. But at least I now have some control over it. Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so question is like the income, the revenue that's coming in the gym, what's the percentage of the mortgage, right? And that's what we would just call like our overhead, and so we're talking like bare bones overhead. Monthly, that would probably be about 20%. Yeah, maybe a little higher. A little more. No, yeah, it's okay. So main reason why we chose to not be affiliated anymore. So I'm fully transparent. When I started the affiliate, I think we were the first 120 affiliates in the world. Like a ghost town, a desert. We were the first one in Utah. Loved CrossFit. CrossFit did a ton for me, obviously. I got to experience so much through the games. I got to work with great people. I got to travel the world and learn so much, right? Awesome. Over the course of time, and after me stepping away from working there and focusing on the gym, and then really what was happening was I was running an online business, and I was running the gym. And the online business was propping up the gym. And I didn't realize that until COVID hit, and I was like, whoa, this is hard. Let me take a really good look at the numbers and see what's going on here. So I had to change the business model that I was running because it was not sustainable. If I wanted the gym to be there for everybody, and I mean my clients, my trainers, my wife and I, then I had to change something. And so that meant the model was starting to change to work for a more lucrative, is not the right word, because it's not very lucrative, but a more profitable business. And most of the reason why, part of it is some of the things that were happening during that time in COVID. I don't want to be associated with these things. I want to kind of stand up. And then as things changed with affiliate fee rates and things like that, it didn't make sense to me because the things that they were offering, just timing-wise, I had already done all on my own over the course of over the course of the 15 years. You better watch that shirt, buddy. I'm watching you now. So that, and then mainly, really what it comes down to is it's a really personal decision. I don't think it's a right or wrong thing. Like, I don't want you guys to do this. It becomes down to is what you're doing in the facility representative of what you're saying and what you want to offer. And so, yes, we still do, I can't say this because I'm not an affiliate, right? But yes, we still do CrossFit workouts 2 to 3 times a week. But if you were looking to come to a CrossFit gym, would you be happy with the service that I was providing? Probably not, right? Especially if you were grown up in one and you knew. Now, if you have no idea what it is, that you wouldn't know any different, so it wouldn't matter. But because we had been in town for 15 years at the time, people were like, that's a CrossFit gym. You still get that. And I'm like, no, like we're not. And they're like, no, but that's the CrossFit gym. And I have clients come in and they're super stoked to come to CrossFit. I'm like, great. And like, that's great, right? But what happens is now when people come in, they can sometimes be disappointed with, again, the way that I program. I think what we've learned from CrossFit, some of the tenets we've learned from it, are so valuable. And when I say this, please hear me out. I think sometimes when people have stepped away and tried to figure out how to run a more effective business or what's more helpful for them, they kind of talk badly about it. I don't want to be one of those people. If anything, what I would love to do is to be a catalyst to have us ask, how can we make it better? What do we do to make it better? Because if I have athletes that started with me at 35 and now they're 55, it just looks different. And for me, I couldn't just say scale the weight, scale the reps. It wasn't going to cut it. I was going to lose clients. And maybe that's me running the business ineffectively, but for me, I had to figure out a more effective way to reach a broader audience in Park City. Where other friends of mine I know, they're like, no, this is what we do, and this is who we are, and this is what we're about, and like that brings people in the door, and that's what we have to associate with. It's not wrong. This is a different approach. Yeah, so have we seen an increase in membership coming in? No. So that's something we're going through now. Like literally this week, I'm supposed to get on a call with this guy. I've never marketed, I've never done Facebook or Instagram marketing, and I'm gonna try it because I need to find ways to get people in the door and tell them who we are. Because I think what's happening is they assume they know who we are, but they don't. So we live in a small town. So this is way off the building side of things, but like I'm hoping that this marketing effort works, and the goal is to, over the course of about a year, is to try to acquire 30 more clients and minimize churn. That would be awesome. But if it doesn't work, and I find that I'm getting leads, but not conversions, then I'm going to learn, despite the cost, I'm going to learn that the service that I provide, call it whatever you want, the demographic does not support it. So my next idea is, I was talking to Josh about this, is not changing, because I'm not going to compromise what I believe to be effective strength and conditioning. I'm not going to do that, like, because I don't believe in that, and I don't want to be a part of that, like, fad type thing. But the idea is to now say, okay, we do strength training, we do CrossFit, we have long aerobic days, we have all these elements, and instead of having them just be on individualized days, saying, well, hey, the 5:30 a.m. class is a strength class. The 6:15 class is an aerobic conditioning class. The 9:30 a.m. class is a kettlebell conditioning class. All these things I already do throughout the week. They're just allocated on each day. Instead, if I put them in the same day and people can select which one they want to come to, then it feels like it has more to offer. This is all hypothesis, people. Welcome to small business ownership, right? So that's my idea if the marketing doesn't work. But in short, no, I haven't seen more people come in. And it's kind of confusing because when you walk in the door, you've got these shadow boxes of like all my games jerseys up on the wall and plates that say CrossFit. They're like, is this a CrossFit gym? And I'm like, no. Like, I take total pride, and I tell them like, hey, we started our roots in CrossFit, and that's what we did. And over the course of time, we've just evolved, and we do things a little different than a traditional CrossFit affiliate. So if I hadn't had a competitive career, had the income from that, would I still have found a way to build a building? Here's the question I think you need to ask yourself. Are you in? Are you really in? Do you really want to be a strength and conditioning coach potentially for the rest of your life? Like, is this what you want to be about and do? Because if you decide after, then what are you? You're a landlord. Because you have to find a way to have something fund that building, that asset. And if fitness and a strength and conditioning facility, a CrossFit facility, whatever you want to call it, is your passion and that can fund that asset, then I think the answer is yes. Would it have been possible in Park City? I don't think, had I not saved that money and with what the gym was bringing in, I don't think I would have been willing to take the risk to build in Park City. I would have had to find somewhere else to do that. Yeah, is Park City overinflated? Yeah, absolutely. So like, single family home in Park City now, because of the resort, because of COVID, it popped, it blew up. A single family home, and this is not, we were there 20 years ago, is 1.3 to 2 million. And so people can't, yeah, it's really difficult to find trainers, really difficult, because they can't live in town. They have to live further away. So, yeah. Yeah, biggest pitfalls of the gym design. The only thing I think I would have done different, there's all sorts of things you have to meet with zoning requirements. When you meet with the county, they'll tell you what you can and can't build. So there's specific like lengths of runs where you'll have to have pop outs, colors, things like that you have to do to meet the zoning requirements and things like that. The only thing I think I would have changed, ladies, you'll appreciate this. I made the ladies' locker room way bigger than the men's because we have way more women than men that come to the gym, believe it or not. And I don't know why I did that. I would have just made them even. So the ladies have like a couch and these lockers. It's awesome. It's a big sitting room, and it's like awesome. The guys are all like crammed in there, but we're dudes, whatever. So I would have kept those even. And then the only other thing I would have done is I would have taken the plumbing before they poured the concrete, and I would have stubbed lines to the far end of the gym. So in the event that if we ever were to lease the building out and someone wanted to subdivide it, that they could have bathrooms at the other end. Those are the only two things that I would change with our structure. Once I stop, who do I think is going to buy it? That's a great question. Here's the dream, okay? The pie in the sky. Maybe not pie in the sky, right? But this is what I really want. I don't ever want to sell it. I love my community. I don't want to close. Like, I love the people that I have there. I need more to keep doing it. But my dream is to get, and this is why we're trying to market, try to get the word out, try to rebrand, try to recommunicate, readjust, pivot. I'd love to get 40, 50 more clients. I would love to get substantial revenue consistently coming in the gym so that I can pay the general manager to run the gym, and I can walk in, take class, and just be there, do a couple one-on-ones when I want to, high five, chest bump, and just steer the culture. I love that. I love steering the culture, the community, be around it. I'm idea guy. If I could have any job, it would be like, I'll come up with 15 ideas today. You tell me they're all dumb, it's okay. I'll come up with 15 tomorrow. I am not like put the ball in the end zone guy. So if that would be the dream, is to do that and have the business so healthy, so strong, that it was covering the mortgage, paying my trainers well, and paying my wife and I well, so we could just sit back and steer the rudder. Option two, if that doesn't happen, is it's gonna sound crazy, but like all cards on the table, is leasing the space out, finding someone to lease it to, downsizing the business to a different structure where you're in a smaller space, maybe a higher price point, still doing the same kind of services, but to maybe a little bit more higher tiered client. I don't like that because I like being accessible to everybody, but you have to run it like a business so you can make it accessible to people. And then lease out the existing building that we have. And then last thing would be, sell it and have that be our retirement. Good question. So how do we kind of price our memberships based on the demographic that we have? At one point, we had 6 CrossFit gyms in town when we were affiliated, and now there's none. We had probably 2, myself and another one that branched off from us. And so the way that we looked at that is I really like to look at other gyms that are offering, I would call it like a boutique fitness gym, because we're not a rec center, we're not just a personal training center. So like, what are other gyms in the area charging? and I'll look at things like Orange Theory, F45. I'll look at, there's other companies, other smaller fitness facilities. They're called BOCO, Good Movement Studio, and they're all like, small business owned, and they have smaller memberships, and they're not a Globo gym. And so I use that as a frame of reference. And guys, I'm just gonna shoot you straight. I'm like dumbfounded. What we charge is appropriate. It's gonna sound expensive, but in Park City, we have an unlimited membership. So if you were to come to me and say, hey, what's your base level membership? It's $259 a month. What does that give you? You walk in the door, you get a free assessment, you go through one-on-ones that you have to pay for. I give you the rest of the month free. You get an assigned coach that's gonna check in with you every 6 weeks at the end of every programming cycle. You get to come to as many classes as you want. You also have access to Open Gym via an app on your phone where you can come in anytime outside of class hours and use that. We have a sauna and a cold plunge that you can use at any time that you want, as long as it's during class. We have a recovery room with Normatec boots and massage guns that you can use, and anything, like any kind of events that we do are free. Like that's, for where we are in Park City, that's insane. And people still they'll still inquire, kind of kicking the tires. Hey, what do you charge? Like, come in and check this out. Let me learn a little bit about you. So we do it that way, and I do that, and then I have what we call an elevated membership, where I would take that entire week of programming for a client and customize that for them. So I put that true coach and then the programming that they already see for the class. We customize that for them, so then they come into the class, but have biased programming or specific programming that they want to work on, or even just take the thought out of it. And that's $359 a month. And then I work with some clients where I'll do multiple one-on-ones, sometimes go to their house, do customized programming, offer all these services, and it's a higher price point. But generally it's the $259. Yeah, we actually bumped up our price last year. We went from $219 to where we did like a la carte. We would do $219 for classes and then charge extra for sauna and cold plunge. But I needed to gain more revenue from my existing members to make this thing work. And I also I want my gym to be an all-inclusive place. I don't want it to be a place where people just like throw out and headbutt one another and leave. Like I want to take care of them outside of just training. So making it feel like more of a full person approach. So when we went from the $219 to $259, obviously that's like a big jump. And people raise some eyebrows, say like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I let them know, I said, hey, we're still less than 80% of the gyms that are similar to us. There's some that are cheaper than us. Actually, yeah, there's some that are cheaper than us, but most of them are more expensive. And then the other amenities like sauna, cold plunge, these recovery studios that you guys see popping up, you know what I'm talking about? These alone in Park City are charging $350 to $650 a month just for that. And that's not having the training, the facility, the open gym, the assigned coach. So I try to bring a ton of value to that. I wish I had a coffee shop, but ain't no way I'm having a coffee shop, because then I gotta find someone to staff it, and I gotta pay $20K for a coffee machine, and man, no one else aside from me would be using that coffee shop. Yeah, so it's my dream, but I got a lot of more people that have a coffee shop, because Park City doesn't have good coffee. But there's a coffee roasters company right across from us. I swear they burn their coffee, don't they, Rich? I'm not a coffee roaster, and when I run outside to do the run, I'm like, you're burning your coffee. You're burning your coffee. Is there another one? Yeah.
See with your like Asian demographic, do you do anything like intense classes to try and get like next week people through, or ended to work out?
So with the Asian demographic, do we introduce kids classes? Yeah, it's funny because a lot of the
Like, you know, you said your members got older, and obviously if we've got older family members, kids and things, they can even look after them.
Yeah.
But then the kids are the next ones coming through. So has that actually did you introduce kids classes, and did that work?
So we had kids classes largely when like those OG members were younger, and their kids were little. Now their kids are all grown and moved away. And so they're all adults with their own kids now, right? And so we do offer a teens class, and we've kind of taken more of the effort toward like a sports performance class. So we don't call it CrossFit because we want to try to it like include people's perception can sometimes be that that's not good for sports performance, even though elements of it can be great. So we have a teens class that we're trying to like lean into. But one of my trainers runs that, and she does well with it. But it also means that I have to facilitate that with her. Yeah, it's an older generation class. We haven't done it. There's another gym in town that does this thing called like the 100-year athlete. This is where like I really love this concept of CrossFit and scaling. So the way that we program is we don't scale things by weight reps and weight reps at time. So we write our workouts by movement demand. So for example, if a workout was hang squat cleans and muscle ups, right? That would be option 1. And that's the most demanding thing you could do because you're decelerating heavy weight, super dynamic movements on your shoulders. Option 2 might be like a front squat or a goblet squat and a strict pull-up. And so that then becomes less demanding. Option 3 might be a wall sit, like an isometric hold, or a box squat, and a ring row or a chest to ring hold. So all of our workouts we program movement demand-wise. That's how we scale. And that has served our older demographic and this guy really well because I got to be really mindful of how often I do like Olympic lifting and things like that. I'll stay here all day. Well, tiny, huh? Yeah.
What are you? But like, even like, going to that.
Yeah. Yeah, good question. So like generally like smaller populated areas, like Park City proper has only about 8,000 full-time residents. The entire town is probably closer to like 16,000, maybe 20. But yeah, it matters. But here's the thing, right? I really believe the service that I provide, likely you guys too, the service that I provide, the level that I care, there are 50 more people in Park City that need what I offer. I need to find them, and I need to find the people that are willing to be educated on how we can on-ramp them and do that correctly. The hardest part is getting those people willing to be educated. Because you either have people that say, oh, I already know what you do, it's not for me. I don't want to do that, it's CrossFit. It's too hard, it's too demanding, it's too intense. Like, you don't even know what we do. So we try to do things to get people in the door, learn more about them, find out what have they done that hasn't worked in the past, to try to have really good retention. We generally have great retention. It's just getting people in the door that's harder for us. Yeah. So the adaptation we've done to the programming has retained members 100%. I have members that have told me, without me asking, I am so glad you changed this because I couldn't come here if you didn't. I mean, we used to burn it down. Like, let's go, bro. Like 2012, 2014, going to the games. Like, you want me to program a week where I murder you? Take me 3 minutes, man. I got you. It takes me way longer to program now in this more thoughtful approach. And how do we layer those in? But yeah, it's absolutely retained people, for sure. Any other building questions? Right? Yeah. Yeah, we're closed every Sunday. Yeah, just Sunday. I just think, I'm like, I love Jesus, and I think you should rest for a day. So I think that's like super important. And it's also great to give your trainers a day off, and it gives them a chance to just kind of hit the reset button as well. So we don't even program a workout that day, but people can still come in and use the gym and do that just with open gym. No, not staffed on a Sunday. So typically, like if you guys, a lot of the companies that you utilize the open gym with, they'll have waivers, and depending on your insurance company, You just got to make sure that they jive well with that, and then they can just go in there. In our experience, you just have to have the right insurance company. You have to have some cameras in there, so in case someone like jumps off a rope, you know. Anything else I can help with? Buildings, yeah. Yeah, pros and cons versus renting to buying. Cons to renting is you're paying for somebody else's asset. So that just kind of stinks, right? It's like, gosh, like I'm paying for somebody else to pay off their building, right? But I mean, I had to for years, right? Pros to renting is you get to walk away, bro. Like something goes south, you're like, I'm out. Your job to go fill that up. Mortgage isn't over my head. Yep, the guy that, yeah, so do we ever think about trying to offer the owner of the building to buy it? The owner of the building actually comes to the gym. He owns like shopping centers in Park City. and I asked him, I was like, David, can I buy this building? It was linked to it. He's like, can't, because it was the whole shopping center and they couldn't allocate one building by itself. And also it would affect their overall rate if he tried to give me a deal on it. So yes, I tried that. No, it didn't work. Pros to building your own building. If you can make it any way you want, which is really cool. So we have like 4 big glass roll-up garage doors. You get lots of light. You roll them up in the summer. It's great. And obviously, like it's an asset for us. So it's our retirement. Please God. And then cons is that's hanging over my head. I'm on the hook for that. That's a lot of money to be on the hook for. And so can it be stressful? For sure. And then it is that I'm in. Because I don't want to be a landlord. So I'm in. But yeah. So do you have any fees you have to pay? That's the other con of building is a lot of people go into it thinking, well, I just need to buy the land and build the building. And that's my cost. But at least where we are, in order for the loan to get funded, we had to pay for, there was a water distribution fee. There was $10,000. There was fire code. I think it was around $24,000. Get this, guys, there's a transportation fee. So that depending on your business and how many people come in at peak hours, they charge you more. The transportation fee was $75,000. So none of that's included in your building, right? So again, this is the zoning where we are. So you'd want to take a look at it, right? So all these hidden fees, that's the tough part. Is you guys, in my experience, if you choose to build, you got to have a lot of cash on hand to be able to do that in order to fund it. Now, having said that, I could have gone to the bank and said, I need to take out a loan to pay for these things, but now I'm paying interest on that, which I was already paying interest on. So when you're paying on a construction loan, once the loan goes through, your building's not done. But I have to pay interest on that loan because the bank has lent me money to pay the builder to build the building. So they're expecting interest on that, or return on it, right? So it took me 18 months to get a building permit from the time that I bought the land to get the building permit. And then it took me another 10 months to build the building. Every month that went by, I had to pay interest on my loan while paying rent at the other facility. So those are the hidden fees you have to watch out for. But if you guys plan ahead, don't feel like it's impossible. If you plan ahead, if you do the due diligence, if you look at it and you really find out all the details behind it, you can allocate that stuff. You can spread it out, budget it in, and make sure that you're good. Take all your equipment and move it from one gym to the other. You don't have to outfit the entire facility at once. You can do it in phases, little things like that. Yeah.
What's the actual structure? You said you have 2 companies, basically one holds the assets and the other your trading companies actually. If you held, say, whenever you were renting, was that, do you have to set up a company to basically build? Or
So great question. Kind of how does the structure of those, how's the structure work of those 2 companies? Like we said, I've got the LLC that owns the building and the land, and then I have Park City Fit, which is a separate business. You don't have to do that. You could just say like, hey, the gym is going to build it, but now your business, your gym is at risk in case someone were to come after it, because the gym owns that. So you don't have to structure it like that, but we were encouraged to structure it like that and put it into a trust to protect it so that it can't be touched by anybody that was trying to. Was it harder to do the financing through that? No, because as you talk to them, we just told them, hey, this is essentially a shelter company. It's going to own this. Now, having said that, I probably did this backwards. I didn't know that until after I had built the building. So I built the building with Park City Fit's money. And then before we opened, I was informed like, hey, you should have a separate company own this. And that opened up a whole other can of worms because everything on all the documentation for the building was under Park City Fit. And then when I went to go sign the documents, I was like, no, it needs to be under this other name. And they're like, well, you're going to have to pay us like $4,000 for changing the document verbiage. And I was like, no, we don't do things like that. So you can, click and change that. So yeah. Good. Well, yeah. Hey guys, like if you see me around, so I'm happy to talk to any of that stuff. Like really, and an encouragement to all of you guys. It's not always going to work, right? But it is hands down like the best decision that my wife and I have made for us to have the gym be a viable thing. Because I'm telling you right now, I would not be able to retire off of the income and revenue that the gym is bringing in. And again, maybe that's entirely my fault on how I run the business. It very well could be, right? But the only way that we're able to do what we do year after year and be able to think about retiring is not because of the business. And I'll leave you with this advice. So we got an older guy, Greg, in the gym. He's about 73. And when we were getting ready to try to make all these decisions, Greg's dad owned a bunch of Ford dealerships. And Greg told me, I love hearing like wisdom from people way further down the road. He said, you know what, Chris? He said, my dad always told me that our dealership was worth nothing and the land in the building was worth everything. And he said, when my dad sold the dealership, the land in the building was the most valuable thing to the people that bought it. Because your business, what people look at that, the way they evaluate that, is by the revenue you have coming in through your membership base. They don't care about the equipment that's in your gym because it's depreciated over time. That's all like, yeah, that's great. Thanks. I'm glad you have equipment in there. What's your monthly revenue? What are you making each month? Like net, not just gross, but like what are you bringing in each month? Is that willing to be invested? So for me, we wouldn't be able to retire on the gym, but the building and the growth of the equity in that allows me to run the gym, hopefully for another 2 decades and retire doing something like that.